Hello, I am Joel Bloom at New Jersey Institute of Technology. We pride ourselves on being part of the Newark community and its advancements in technology, the economy, and the growth of the city. That's why we are very proud to partner with the Caucus Educational Corporation to produce Newark at the Crossroads right here on the NJIT campus. We hope you enjoy this special series.
Funding for this special edition of One-on-One with Steve Adubato at NJIT has been provided by NJIT, New Jersey Institute of Technology, RWJ Barnabas Health, the New Jersey Education Association, Prudential Financial's Global Communications Department, PSE&G, committed to improving New Jersey's economy and strengthening its communities, the Fidelco Group, and by Verizon. Promotional support provided by NJ.com, Small News, Big News, True Jersey, and by Commerce Magazine.
This is One-on-One. I'm an equal American just like you are.
The jobs of tomorrow are not the jobs of yesterday.
Look at this. You got this?
Here it is, man. Look at that.
Life without dance is boring.
When you first heard that they were doing Charlie Rose and Gayle King, didn't you go, what?
Do you enjoy talking politics?
No.
People call me because they feel nobody's paying attention.
Our culture, I don't think, has ever been tested the way it's being tested right now.
Such a good question. High five.
Welcome to the New Jersey Institute of Technology, the Jim Wise Theater. I'm Steve Adubato. More importantly, I'm pleased to welcome back after too many years in a new role, Preston D. Pinkett III, Chairman and Chief Executive Officer of City National Bank. Good to see you, Preston.
It's a pleasure to be here with you, Steve.
Talk about City National Bank. What is it? Why does it matter so much in the history of this city?
Well, City National Bank started more than 40 years ago here, right downtown. Concerned minority community members said we need a bank that serves the minority community, and City National Bank was what they came up with. Took them a little while to get it started, but early 70s, in response to the social unrest of the 60s, they formed a bank to make loans when the big banks wouldn't. This was all before the Community Reinvestment Act required banks to make loans to minorities, when redlining was the standard of the day, and it was a bank that set out to make loans available to people who otherwise wouldn't have choices.
How did you become the leader? Well,
I was minding my own business, and the bank ran into a little difficulty, and they needed somebody who understood the banking business and who understood how to raise capital and was willing to try to turn it around. It was always a lifelong dream to be the head of a minority bank, an African-American bank. It's part of, culture of giving back, and one of the things that I talked to my parents and grandparents about as a kid. So when they called me and said, hey, would you be interested in taking this risk? I said, absolutely.
Tell folks your background and banking before this, because that's how we came to know you, because you've been a top executive in the banking industry for many years.
Way back when we were younger, I worked at Chemical Bank in New Jersey. I worked for PNC in New Jersey, worked at the New Jersey Economic Development Authority, and then at Prudential. And so I have a wide array of experience in finance and development and investments and lending. And so I was, luckily well positioned for the job when they called.
Preston, talk about the role of a bank like this in a city like this at a time like this.
Yeah. It's, look, for this bank, the time has always been this way here in Newark, right? So the challenge, look, the bank started with the social unrest of the 60s, which was citizen police conflict, right? And we've been working diligently to try to reach out to the communities to create opportunities to, whether it's homes, whether it's jobs, whether it's short-term cash needs, or savings accounts for Christmas Club. That's the business that we've been in to try to make things work for people who otherwise might be left behind, right?
So someone says, excuse me for interrupting you, someone says, the bigger banks, they have, quote, more to offer. You say?
They used to. But nowadays, technology is such that small banks can offer everything the big banks offer. The big banks offer more branches, but look, we have a network of ATM machines that covers the gambit. We have surcharge-free more ATMs than the big banks combined, all over the country. So with technology and with the ability to cooperate and collaborate with others, you can get benefits from any bank, right? We're in the communities, we're in the neighborhoods. The big banks are mostly downtown. And And listen, I'm not suggesting that people shouldn't bank with the big banks. I'm fine if they bank with the big banks, if they can get what they need. And so what we offer is a customized service for people who might otherwise feel uncomfortable walking into one of the bigger institutions because they feel intimidated or because they feel like they won't be treated fairly.
Yeah, talk about that. Someone who is looking to expand their business or start a business, and they could potentially feel intimidated or just uncomfortable walking into a bigger bank. Describe that experience at your bank.
Well, the expectation is that if you're in business, you've learned how to present yourself to a bank.
One would assume.
But there's nothing in the requirements to start a business that would give you that education.
That's right.
And so we see lots of people come to us and say, here's the information we have. It's in a shoebox. And we actually set up an accounting company so that we could start to do some of the accounting for some of our clients because they didn't have their records in order. But even those people who don't necessarily know how to read it, don't necessarily know what it means, don't understand the risk of growing too fast. And so what we do is we spend a lot of time. I mean, look, my chief financial officer takes time out of his day to work with some of our commercial clients to make sure that they understand where things are.
Actually help them help themselves.
Yes, absolutely.
Which is a non-traditional role for a bank.
Oh, and especially for a chief financial officer of a bank. So it's that personal service, it's that ability to talk to the customers one-on-one. Now, we can't do it with all of them, but we do try to do it with as many as we can because we understand that it's information that will make the business successful. And the way we want to think about it is that it's the success of our clients that matter, not the success of our bank.
Now, Preston, the bank was identified as selected as one of Prudential's 20 stories of strength, but I'm curious about this. There is a fund that was set up, City National Urban Fund, is it?
Yeah.
What is that?
So the idea is, so there's first is that we're banking people in the neighborhoods, right? The other is that the cost to bank those customers is high, right? To do this level of service that I just described is high. And so what we've set up is it's essentially a certificate of deposit that allows people who may not live in the neighborhoods or who may not be low or moderate income, who want to be supportive of the efforts of the bank to deposit money with us that we can use to then make loans, that we can use to provide a level of service. And you know, I think when it was set up originally, it was set up with the idea that it might be at a lower rate. We pay the same rate, but the idea is that people know that their money is being used in the communities that we serve, as opposed to simply coming into the bank and being used to buy bonds.
I'm fascinated by I don't even know if it's a delicate balance, but it is the constant balancing act between doing so many important, valuable things on behalf of the community and, quote, making a profit.
Yeah.
You laugh, why?
It's tough. There are easier ways to make a living. I mean, the reason you do it this way is because it matters, right? You don't have to. There are easier ways, but not more important ways. And so the ability to do this and to make a difference and to make a profit and to see the change in people's lives and to see businesses develop and to be part of Newark's revitalization is really, there's nothing better.
Nothing mutually exclusive about any of those things.
No, can't be.
I got to ask you this. Hopefully the Pandora's box won't open. Can we realistically improve the relationships that need to be improved between the minority community and those in law enforcement? A, and B, is there a role for folks like yourself who are real leaders in the corporate community to help?
Well, we have to. And, you know, I'm willing to do whatever I can, but it has to be done. I mean, at the end of the day, the interests of the citizenry and the interests of the police need to come together. They cannot continue to collide. I mean, this is just not it's not a prescription for long-term success. And so it's leadership and willing to have a conversation, willing to be honest about what has happened.
That's right.
And willing to share about how it could happen in a different way, right? I mean, both sides have got to be honest. I mean, the police don't want to be in a situation where they're being harmed, and the citizens don't want to be in a situation where they're being harmed. And so why can't we come together and work on a solution that makes sense?
Real quick, positive impact for positive return?
Absolutely.
That's not just a philosophy, it's a way to live.
For me, it is. I mean, what else is there worth? What would you do otherwise? Steal from people? I mean, who wants to do that?
That's why Preston D. Pinkett III, we are pleased and thrilled that he took on the role. 5 years in?
5 years in.
Does it feel like 5 years?
No.
I'll leave it alone. He's chairman and chief executive officer of City National Bank. He's had an incredible career in the financial world, and we are thrilled that he is doing what he's doing on behalf of this bank with a great and important history in the city, City National Bank. Thank you, Preston.
Nice to be here with you, Steve. Thank you for having me.
Stay with us from NJIT, another great institution. We'll be right back right after this.
To watch more One-on-One with Steve Adubato, find us online and follow us on social media.
We are pleased to be joined by Dr. Timothy J. Crist, president of the Board of Trustees at an extraordinary institution, the Newark Public Library. Good to see you, Tim.
It's good to be here, Steve.
Newark Public Library, how important is this great place in connection with this great city celebrating its 350th anniversary?
You know, Steve, it's an anchor institution. We have our main library downtown, but 7 branches through the community. We've been here for more than 125 years, and we're still serving Newarkers in the same way we've done through that entire time. You know, over 1,000 Newarkers come in every week looking for help to find a job. Over 10,000 visit the main library and the branches every week. And we do have these terrific resources to help Newarkers make their lives better.
Let's make sure we're going to put up the Newark Public Library information. But I want to talk about this. This is an extraordinary publication. It's called Knowing Newark, Selected Star Ledger Columns by Charles F. Cummings. For those who don't know Charles Cummings, we could say he was the Newark historian, but that doesn't even do justice to who Charles was. There he is. We're looking at Charles' picture right there. So, for those of us who were in school at Rutgers University, couldn't get through without Charles Cummings, helped us through so many graduate term papers, essays, whatever it was. You go into the New Jersey reference rooms, it was Charles Cummings. He was an extraordinary guy. He wrote a Star Ledger column for many, many years on the history of Newark.
That's right, called Knowing Newark for 10 years. Over 500 columns.
Describe why Charles was so special.
Charles knew Newark, he collected the stories, and he wanted to tell the stories, and he helped everybody. He helped you as a student. He helped Philip Roth when he was writing his novels. And Philip Roth called him a great hero, and in a quiet way he was. He worked in the library for more than 40 years, always in the New Jersey room, always learning more about Newark's history, always helping people discover it for themselves.
Why put these columns together?
Well, with the 350th anniversary of Newark, we wanted to do several things at the library to help the city celebrate. We put on an exhibit that's still up that records the history of the city. We've hosted Guy Sterling's monthly conversations with leading Newarkers. But we wanted to do something lasting, something that people could turn to after this celebration year. And we thought, what better way than bringing a selection of Charles's Star Ledger columns about the history of Newark to the public and giving it away for free.
By the way, you had a couple of I have a couple of my favorites. A couple of favorites of Charles. His columns, go ahead.
Well, he wrote about so many different things. But one that I really like is about the Passaic River. And it got so polluted, we all turned our backs on it. But Charles understood the importance of telling the stories to remember how important the river was in the history of Newark. There were regattas, there were ferries going back and forth, there were people fishing, and it served to support the industry of Newark. And when it got so polluted toward the beginning of the 20th century, we ignored it. But it's coming back now.
Right.
And to tell those stories helps to inform the future, helps to inform the development of the Newark Riverfront Park all along the Passaic.
There's a connection that I feel to the city that is deep and is personal, and you know it very well. and it's connected to my dad in many ways, and Charles and my dad had a connection, and you and my dad had a connection. Here's my point. For those of us who are truly connected on a personal level to this city, is it hard for us to explain to other folks what we feel?
You know,
or am I making too much of that?
Well, those of us who love this city feel that there's a there. And Gertrude Stein famously said about Oakland, there's no there. I have always felt that there's a there here in Newark. Yeah. And one of the reasons is there's 350 years of history. What happened in Newark informed what happened all over the country, from the New England settlement of Puritans through the Industrial Revolution, the vast migration of people from different countries in Europe, later the Great Migration from the south of blacks, more recently the different Hispanic groups. Newark has always been a place of hope, a place to build your future. And we've had our hard times. Charles collected all the stories, not only about the good times, but the hard times.
Did.
And, you know, in his 500 columns, I calculated recently, he wrote more than 1 million words about the history of Newark. And we're going to put all of them up on a website. In addition to this publication, we have a Knowing Newark website. The first 100 columns are up there, and we're gradually editing them all. And there will be over 500 columns that capture all these stories about Newark.
Let me ask you this. What do you think Charles, who was in that library for 40 years, loved this city in a way that no one else ever could, what do you think he would think about the future of the city as we move toward the back end of 2016?
Charles was always hopeful. He always wanted to see the best in the city and the best in the people of the city. And I think he would see things coming together in a special way. With the developments around Military Park, the murals around the city, the work of our current mayor, good things are happening, and I think he would look to find ways for the library to be in the middle of that and to encourage that continuing development.
Is that what you see?
I do. And you know, Steve, I've been here for 37 years. I showed up at your father's North Ward Center in a blue blazer and khaki trousers as an unusual person, and he said,
You mean by an unusual person, not someone from the city who was well-educated from the suburbs and went to a good school. That's what you mean.
Well, and he said, let me rent you an apartment, and he did. And that's what the sort of place Newark is. Invite people in and make it your home.
You can't replicate or duplicate that history. And I thank God that Dr. Timothy J. Crist is the president of the Board of Trustees of an extraordinary organization, a great organization called the Newark very public library. Go check it out. And this book is called Knowing Newark, selected Star Ledger columns by the iconic, the late Charles F. Cummings. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you.
Stay right there.
Great.
We'll be right back right after this from NJIT.
To see more one-on-one with Steve Adubato programs, visit us online at steveadubato.org. If you would like to express an opinion, email us at info@caucusnj.org. Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Steve Adubato, PhD, and follow us on Twitter at Steve Adubato.
We are pleased to be joined by the beautiful and talented and also the great writer, Stephanie Evanovich, the author of The Total Package. There's the cover of the book. Who is The Total Package?
For the sake of the book, The Total Package is a man named Tyson Palmer.
Who is?
He is a football player who just fell down.
He fell down, and was he getting another chance?
He fell down by being given too much too soon.
Wait a minute, hold on. I'm thinking Johnny Manziel?
Think Johnny Manziel.
Gets another chance.
Yes, he does. From everybody except one sports reporter that he can't figure out.
Is that
what it
Danny
is.
Carr?
It would be.
So hold on, Danny
Are you
Carr.
a mind reader?
Hold on, wait a minute. Hold on, wait a minute.
You're reading my mind.
I read the notes and I read enough of the book to know that Danny Carr is a sports writer.
It is.
Covering this. Is he a quarterback?
He's a quarterback.
He's a quarterback.
Tyson Palmer's a quarterback.
Okay, so did they have a previous relationship?
As a matter of fact, they did, Steve.
At college?
In college.
And of course he remembers.
Actually, he's out of college, and she's just finishing up.
Why does he not remember this relationship?
Because he just, he's got an addiction problem, which, I write comedy, just to step away for a second. I do write comedy I don't need to tell anybody there's nothing funny about addiction, and it takes a small part of the book, but I also believe it deserved to be talked about.
So the thing is, he doesn't remember.
He doesn't remember.
But something happened between them, something significant. He doesn't remember. She's not responding to his advances, and it's frustrating. But your books, your previous book?
Actually, I have two. There's The Sweet Spot, which was my second book, and Big Girl Panties was my debut novel.
Big Girl Panties.
Yeah, I can't believe you said it.
Yeah, I wanted to say it. I was
Okay.
looking forward to it. Never said it before. Question. You have a pretty famous last name.
I do.
Because?
I'm related to somebody incredibly famous.
You are.
I am. Janet Evanovich is my aunt.
And it's so interesting.
Through marriage. I have to clarify, I didn't in no way swim in her gene pool. My father and her husband are brothers.
You spent a lot of years before you became a writer acting.
A very frustrated actor, yes.
Why the transition?
Because after 30 years and finding out that the movie, do you remember the movie The Wrestler with Mickey Rourke?
With Mickey Rourke, yeah.
Well, long story short, I probably could have hit Mickey Rourke with a rock from my front porch, and while he was filming, because he filmed at Convention Hall in Asbury Park, which I live on the street that ends at Convention Hall, or I did at that time. I didn't find out that that movie was even filmed until it came out in the theaters, and that's when I sort of realized that I just was never going to have the connections to make it in acting. But if I could write a book, I could at least try to entertain. That was all I really wanted to do, was entertain.
That was your thing?
I do. I really enjoy entertaining. I do.
Where does it come from?
I grew up in a family of teachers, so acting was like a hobby, but it was never to be taken seriously. You were to go to college and, and that's okay.
But this book, your third, what's fascinating about it is I read about your background. You did not experience, as many of us who have written and been published, you did not experience many of the rejections that the rest of us
None of them.
I mean, I have 35, I believe, my first book until Simon & Schuster said yes. At least, maybe 40 or more.
Yeah.
At least.
With the name, there's no lie. It's a,
But that didn't get you the publishing deal.
I still have to sit down and write the books.
Yes.
Do you know? So I do get a little disheartened. Every now and then someone will say, I'm riding the coattails. And
ignore the haters.
Haters gotta hate. But more than that, my publisher was incredibly supportive, and they really showed genuine faith in me. And that gave me the confidence I need. I'm on my fourth book now. I got another 3-book deal after this one. Thank you. It was a life changer. But you still got to bick it, which is what I call button chair. Like, you still have to write the books.
So your theme, the books that you have written, the themes consistently, there are a lot of themes, but one of them, particularly in this one, redemption, second chances. Why?
Because I think that's when people feel at their absolute lowest, right before they get redeemed. And sometimes it's the difference between getting redeemed and not, is how you handle yourself at the lowest point. And if I have the ability to give somebody a little bit of hope and a laugh, then that feels like a much bigger purpose than just putting words on a paper and getting a check,
And Stephanie, for your readers, do you think that is the biggest thing that they respond to?
When Big Girl Panties first came out, and not to give you too much background, but Big Girl Panties is basically the story of a personal trainer, 2 athletes, and an overweight woman that he's forced to sit next to in first class that he decides he's going to make over. The fact is, he's the one who needs the makeover. She was just having a little hard time in her life.
He was pretty superficial.
He was very shallow, and she just ran rings around, and she wrecked him. And I got a lot of email from people who were like, today was the first day I felt good about myself, or I went to the gym today with a whole different attitude because I used to view the gym as like the enemy, and now I kind of have a better spring in my step. And I did want to put that message out. I used to work at a gym. I used to open a gym in my neighborhood, 5 o'clock in the morning. And yeah, you get your typical, stereotypical gym people who jump around and act crazy and, you know, pose and flex all day. But by and large, the gym is full of average people who care about their health, who don't look like supermodels or pro athletes of, you know, any particular genre. And they're all just there to worship their body temple. And that's how they started their day. And it was literally the best job I ever had. Except for the current one. The current job is really
Mind
good.
if I plug?
I would love it.
The Total Package. Stephanie Evanovich is the author, New York Times best-selling author of Big Girl Panties, but this is The Total Package, a novel. Check it out, folks. You're a great guest.
Oh, Steve, thanks so much for having me. It was such a pleasure.
One-on-One with Steve Adubato has been a production of the Caucus Educational Corporation, celebrating over 25 years of broadcast excellence. Funding for this special edition of One-on-One with Steve Adubato at NJIT has been provided by NJIT, RWJ Barnabas Health, the New Jersey Education Association, Prudential Financial's Global Communications Department, PSE&G, the Fidelco Group, and by Verizon. Transportation provided by Airbrook Limousine, serving the metropolitan New York, New Jersey area. One-on-One with Steve Adubato at NJIT has been produced in cooperation with FiOS One News.
I think at NJIT there are a lot of smart students.
I came to NJIT for mechanical engineering because within state it's one of probably the top 3 schools for engineering.
It sort of creates a friendly competition where you know you can learn from them.
It's a great academic school.
I feel I'm being challenged, but at the same time I love the classes I'm taking.
The atmosphere of being here is like being at an upstart company. It's that same kind of drive, that same kind of passion.